Hi, so equipment you'll need is a pencil. I prefer a mechanical pencil so you don't have to sharpen it every time it breaks. A marking gauge, a ruler, glass paper for your file so it doesn't, the wood doesn't get stuck in there. Then a tri-square, coating saw, wooden mallet, a Tennon saw, 2 clamps, and a spare piece of wood if you have it, chisel, and some people, instead of using the, some people like to use the bench hook instead of the vice. Yeah. So, hi. Today I'll be showing you how to make the 2 wood joints. The cross-halving joint, like this, and the Mortise and Tennon. Alright, for health and safety reasons, always make sure you grab the apron. So we're going to mark out where we need to cut for the cross-halving joint. So we're going to measure it, measure the thickness of the wood, which is 20. So 10 roughly in the middle there. And then you would measure from the block of wood here to the point on the marking gauge of 10 centimeters, the width of 10 millimeters, the width of the wood. And then you just drag it down like that, so you get a nice groove, and then you can put your pencil line through that. Okay, so now we're going to mark the thickness we need to cut it. So make a rough marking on either side of the wood that you've laid down. And then you would get your tri-square, and put it up to there, and mark all the way around. Right? That's bad. So now you have that, and then you do the same on this one here. So now we know what thickness to cut the wood to. All the way around. And now we would put it in a vise like this. And we would cut with our Tennon saw. Just make a neat little groove there. And then you cut all the way down to your marked out line on this side. Okay? Now that we finished cutting the grooves on either side of our marked out joint, we have to chisel the rest. And then we have to chisel this part out. Now I've cut another groove in the middle so that when you're chiseling, it's easier to split up that piece of wood. Because if you try and split up the whole piece, it's a lot harder. So you get your chisel, making sure it's not too big for the joint, and make small little there we go, chipping off into a pyramid. I was lucky there. I got it nice and perfect. And we're trying to get it into a pyramid. We finished cutting our groove with our Tennon saw here, so you should end up with something like this. Now if it doesn't quite fit, like ours did, then you get your file and wrap it in glass paper. You don't need quite this much, it's just easier. And then you would sand it down like this, making sure the file's straight so you don't end up with a curve, because otherwise it won't curve. And try not to round out the corners on here, because otherwise it'll be caved in slightly, and it will be hard to fit your piece of wood in. So once you've sanded down the corners until they fit nicely, you should get a nice push fit like that. And shape, so that you chisel it into a pyramid, and then you can just chisel off the top. So I've done that side of the pyramid, and now just slowly chip off the top like this until you're left with a nice sanded down groove like that. Okay, so now we're going to make the Tennon part of the joint. We've already made the mortise down here. You won't be able to see it, but anyway. So we measure across, so 20, So we want to make a little mark there at 10. And then 25, so roughly 12 and a half, about there. And we want to measure in from each side. We want to measure in 5 centimeters. So, millimeters, sorry. There's one there. 2 here. 3. And 4. So then you would make the square of the tenon all the way around, like that. So that's our tenon, and we're going to fit it into the mortise we made over here. So then you would cut that out with your tenon saw. So we finish marking it out, and we'll begin to cut the tenon. Finish cutting off our tenon. You want to sand down the things, sand down the joint, like so, until you have it roughly where you want it. Remember, never chisel because it's against the grain, so you'll split it. And after you've sanded it down, like the cross-halving, it should be a nice push fit, like that. And I just chipped the joint. Okay, so now that we finished the cross-halving joint, we're going to start on the mortise and tenon. And this part of the mortise and tenon, we're going to make the hole over here. Right? So we mark out here, so we measure this, so it's roughly 25 millimeters, sorry. And then, so half of this is going to be right about there, 12.5, right? And now we're going to measure in where we want it to be, so roughly to there, like so. Sorry. And the hole for the mortise and tenon, it has to be a third of the width of the wood, otherwise it will crack and will snap. So, now that we have the middle, we're going to mark, you're going to do it more accurately than me, but out the middle of our square. And now, we're going to go this, like that. And like that. And then we're gonna we would measure out our peg that goes in the mortise and tenon, roughly the 1/3 of the width. You mark the top out. So that's how much we would do it to. Roughly there. Make sure you make it accurate on yours, so that a nice push fit into our hole over there. So then we get our drill, which I'm gonna get in a moment. So we can cut it there. Okay, so now that we've got our drill, we're going to open up the thread here and put in our drill bit. Nice and tight, so it doesn't fall out. And before we do that, I'm going to take a punch stock and a mallet and put it roughly in the middle of where we want it to go, so that our drill bit doesn't slip when we're trying to make the hole. And do a nice hole through the middle there. Like that. Okay, you can cut that friend. Okay, now we want to cut our hole bigger. So we're going to take our coping saw, and I put it in a vise just because it's easier to dismantle that way. And you unscrew the handle, like so. So you can pull out this bit here, and then you feed the blade through the hole. Make sure you keep it straight because you don't want it crooked when you put it back together. And now you screw it in again, like so, so that you can cut your hole for it bigger. Okay. And now to make our hole wider so that we can fit the file through and sand it down so that it fits perfectly. So so we don't snap the wood, so we don't chip the wood, because we're going against the grain this time, we get a spare piece of wood, clamp down to the table so that the grain is supported, so when we chisel, it won't. Okay, so that's one side. And we do all the other sides. So now that we finished chiseling out the hole, we should, oh, look at that. Didn't need to do any sanding or filing that time. It fit perfect just from the chisel. So, perfect push fit, doesn't wiggle around too much, shouldn't fall out. Let's test it. Nope. So, there you have it.